How is it possible to have a bank without bankers? What do you mean that you can talk to someone without them being there? They think this is a strange idea because it is so different from the way things are now. They've never been at ease. Then they use the silly KYC AML thing, which is really just a way to get more tax money because everyone has to report everything. That's what it's really about. It wasn't really about things like funding terrorists. They really need to always know where your money is to keep you from leaving the system. It looks like that was done on plan. I believe it's to make speed bumps. Many times the SEC knows it's going to lose, but it still does it to slow down the whole market. The crackdown by the government. In the US, attacks on cryptocurrency companies are still going on, which is really making it hard for the industry to grow and progress. Recently, the US Securities and Exchange Commission took action against Uniswap Labs, the company that made Ethereum's biggest decentralized trading tool. This shows that these agencies are not going to change their minds. The SEC sent Uniswap a Wells notice, which meant that they could be punished for acting as an unregistered exchange and broker-dealer. This move is part of a larger trend of governmental pressure on crypto-related businesses. In the past few months, Coinbase, Kraken, and other companies have all been given similar notices. The reaction from Uniswap shows that opposition is growing in the industry. Uniswap's founder Hayden Adams is getting ready to fight the SEC's actions, maybe even in the Supreme Court. At the same time, Consensus, an Ethereum creator, has also sued the SEC, saying that the agency's attempts to label Ether as a security are wrong. As these things happen, Raoul, CEO of Real Vision, talks about the regulatory landscape. He says that the US government's strict method is meant to keep control over investors' money and keep being in charge of the financial system. You can see that almost every other central bank in the world of a certain size is also working on CBDCs. The US is afraid to make the move, so it won't. This has happened in the US before, and I've written about it before. Everyone had to trade their money with each other after the US left the gold standard. It was the US that said, we don't really want to be involved in this. They were afraid of what would happen to the dollar. The UK was the first country to open foreign exchange markets. It grew into the world's biggest market ever. Since then, the UK has been in charge of that market. The second was the dollar loans made outside of the United States. The US was very worried about the flow of dollars outside of the US and didn't know what to do about it. I would do the same thing with a backup currency. So they basically stopped us banks from giving money to certain groups. The UK started the Eurodollar market, which is the dollar market outside of the US. It also went through other foreign banks. It grew into the world's biggest market ever. All of those were missed by the US. The London Interbank offered rate LIBOR as the interest rate for the whole world because of this. It was until they switched to SOFA. At that time, the US derivatives market was mostly made up of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange and the Chicago Board of Trade. It happened again in the late 1980s. But then the swaps market grew. It was an over-the-counter OTC market that needed legal capital from banks. The US government said, we're going to make it so hard for you that you can't do it to protect their own markets. The UK began the swaps market, which grew into the OTC derivatives market based in the UK and grew to be a $1.4 quadrillion market. This is something the US has done before because it was afraid of messing up. I get it. You are currently in charge. You make people scared. The UK is naturally good at arbitraging that. That's why they see the chance. That's why London is such a big city. The UK stock market isn't very big. They did this because they took all the business from the US. What was also very interesting was that they saw the US mess up again with crypto. And the UK spoke up and said, we want to make sure this is done right. We want to bring it to the city. We want this to become a big market. This is what they did. This is the fourth time. I think I told the guys at Coinbase about this too. I believe Brett is in charge of their business side. I feel like he grew up in the standard finance business, just like I did. In the 1990s, UK was home to the main offices of all US banks. This is the reason why Goldman, JP Morgan, and Morgan Stanley all have their biggest offices in London. And slowly, after Basel I rules were put in place in the early 2000s, cash came back to the US because banks there didn't have to follow such strict rules. That's why money came back. In this case, it seems like the chance for the whole thing to happen again. When you have total power, look at how Google can't do anything. I also know a lot about the Google Web3 team. They get it. They do, yes, they like it a lot. But as far as I know, even Google's CTO is a big fan of Web3. They can't do anything, though, because it would hurt their business. The US has a monopoly on world money right now. It doesn't want to change its system because it doesn't want to lose control of it. That's why if you look at it this way, Coinbase is good and Binance is bad. Since Coinbase is inside the walls, they've now given them a monopoly and blocked Binance, the biggest exchange in the world, which is likely controlled by China in the same way that Coinbase is controlled by the US. And that's where the difference lies, just like between Chinese and us tech companies. In other words, this game is going on everywhere we look. Even the ETF is funny to them because they think of it as a way to keep money in the system. So it has to go through the agents and all the checks and balances they have set up to make sure they know where it goes. I think about it in a different way. It gives people a taste of what this is like, in my opinion. They always move out of the risk curve and into crypto land. The SEC and the US government must think that putting money through the ETF is a good thing. I think it's a win for crypto land as a spy horse. What do you think? These kinds of handbrakes that US officials are using right now, does that make us move slower? Not at all. To begin, it's clear that it's a global business. The second thing is that Bitcoin has been approved. At some time, ETH will get the green light. What you've done now is bring in cash. This isn't a straight investment because it doesn't go into crypto land right away. It's like a deal. That money is reused in the crypto market and moves away from risk. Profits are put back into VC. VC makes new products, which open up new business possibilities for the next cycle. That's still going on, so I don't think it slows it down. A mom and pop shop in Ohio isn't going to trade a 100th piece on Uniswap. It doesn't seem to matter to me. Like you said, the real problem is that I feel bad for us inventors. Okay, that's the problem, because they have to move. I'm soon going to Token 2049 in Dubai. A lot of smart people want to live in Dubai. Singapore took it easy for a while. Hong Kong is getting good people back. Europe getting ability in a strange way. Switzerland has a lot of talented people. In Crypto Valley, the UK is hiring people, and others are leaving to work in other countries. That's too bad.